I'm sure you've heard one of the hundreds of urban myths or unsubstantiated TikToks that describe how wedding vendors have ripped off unsuspecting and innocent engaged couples by taking their deposit and then ghosting them, never to be seen again. I'll be the first to admit that some of those stories are absolutely true. However, in my experience in hospitality, in events and in weddings, these are super, super rare. What happens more often than not, like in 99% of these interactions, is that one, a vendor is not entirely professional and doesn't take care of their couple like they need to. And by that, I mean using contracts to make the expectations of both sides extremely clear at the very beginning. Or two, the vendor does have a contract, but it's not drafted by a lawyer with a deep knowledge and understanding of events, so it's incomplete or inaccurate in terms of consumer law protections. Or three, the vendor has a legally binding and complete contract, and the engaged couple either doesn't read it or doesn't understand it before they pay their deposit, their booking fee or retainer. Now, if you choose to book a wedding vendor who doesn't ask you to sign a contract or who has a dodgy contract that doesn't outline everything, I can't help you. In all seriousness, that is wedding planning 101. So all that leaves is number 3. And the responsibility of reading and understanding the contract rests with you. If there are parts you don't understand, any reputable, experienced professional won't take issue with explaining them to you. With that said, however, one of the biggest points of contention when booking in a wedding supplier, what some couples are really surprised about too, and that is the booking fee, the deposit or retainer that they expect you to pay immediately. And you might be wondering why so many vendors ask for a booking fee or deposit or retainer before they've done any work yet or supplied any products to you. Like, what does that payment actually cover? How much of a percentage of the total cost or flat fee is standard for the wedding industry? And probably the most common question of all, is that payment ever refundable? One of the best things about the Unbridely Suppliers community is we've got front row, battle-tested, relevant and real-time insights available for you at the drop of a hat or at the question from an engaged couple from an incredible group of wedding professionals who generously share their perspectives. These questions about booking fees are ones that I get asked several times a week and is perhaps one of the most frustrating for couples who don't understand how the majority of professional wedding vendors work and operate their business to protect you and to protect them. I want to break it down today. A quick disclaimer before we jump in, the information, it is not specific advice. So if you take action following something you've heard in the podcast, it's really important that you make sure you get professional advice about your unique situation before you proceed, whether that advice may be legal, financial, accounting, medical, or other advice. So let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. We'll start with the very basics and we'll build from there. So what is a booking fee or deposit and why do vendors charge them? So when you inquire with a photographer, celebrant, florist, any wedding supplier, nearly all of them will ask for a deposit. This is sometimes called a booking fee, a commitment fee, or a retainer. I want you to understand as a baseline, this payment isn't just about locking you in. The practice of asking for and getting and holding this booking fee is also about making sure that your date is stamped on their calendar, so to speak. Also, it's an understanding that they start turning down all other work for that slot. It might be a day or days, for your wedding. and managing their workload for the necessary preparations in the lead up to. Vendors work within a limited number of weekends and peak dates in any wedding season. So once your date is locked, it's off the market for everyone else. My lovely and insanely talented friend Teresa from Lion's Den Cakes puts it quite simply, and I'll quote her here. I ask for a 30% non-refundable and non-transferable booking fee. This is to secure the date and our services to the exclusion of all others. Once we take on their booking, we begin to turn away all other inquiries for that date. So the retention of the booking fee is to go towards the admin fees, the overheads, ingredients, specialised items that need to be ordered, as well as a loss of potential work. As we are now only taking on 2 to 3 bookings per week and a minimum spend requirement and can book out over a year in advance, it's really hard to fill that space. So Teresa has been in the industry for a while now. She's built herself up. She's multi-award winning. She makes couture wedding cakes that are just, they defy gravity and art, and it's a beautiful thing. So this is where Teresa is in her journey as a wedding vendor, building up, getting reputation, getting known for something, doing something very specific and very, very well. However, Betty from the bake space has another perspective. So even though she is a very experienced cake maker, her target audience and business practices are different to Teresa's. And I think it's really important to think about this. So also a cake maker, but Betty said, and I'll quote her, now I take a 50% non-refundable deposit, but it can be transferred to a different date though. Also, I have refunded people the deposit under some circumstances, as I don't get many full cancellations and the spot can generally be filled. It secures their date. It allows me to get any extra ordered for their date early, like toppers, specific flowers, etc., stock orders, etc. So Betty just runs her business differently. She has a different target market. She has a different number of bookings that she's doing. I'm not sure if Betty has a team. That would be interesting to know. But you can see just there from between Teresa and Betty, they're running their businesses differently. They have different contracts. They have different booking fee requirements, non-refundable, but Teresa's is non-transferable and Betty's is transferable. Doesn't make one wrong or right, but you just need to be making sure that when you find a vendor that you really like, that their terms match up with what you need and what you expect as well. So Chelsea from Easy As Events said, the booking fee secures your date and it covers the work that I will do until the next payment is due, which for Chelsea is 6 months out from the event. And also, if you choose to cancel or postpone your event, like that's what it's for. But booking fees aren't just about reserving your slot. Alison, who's a celebrant, describes them as an essential part of how her business runs. And this is Alison's quote. My booking fee covers a few things: the admin of onboarding a new client, potential loss should the couple cancel, and also my IP, my intellectual property, she means. So Alison gives her client a booklet with info on the marriage process. It has ceremony ideas, etc. So that is her intellectual property. It's stuff that she gives out to a couple who have booked her in for her celebrant services, but it's not something she would just give out to anyone. It's part of her service. It's a value she provides. A booking fee also strengthens the contract as value has been exchanged. And I love how specific she got there. There's also the consideration that when a booking is cancelled with a wedding vendor, there can't be an assumption there that they'll be able to fill that space, that slot, that date at the last minute. In my own celebrant contract, there's a clause that states, the booking fee is a genuine estimate of loss suffered in the event that you cancel the booking, regardless of whether I am able to book another client on your booking date. So it's like a minimum. It's like if everything turns to shit, then I am comfortable with that booking fee being representative of what I've already done for you. And me being comfortable and okay with stepping away should that booking get cancelled. Sam from Amuse Event Light and Audiovisual Ads. We take on a deposit to qualify serious clients as well as improve cash flow, especially outside of wedding season. And Pete from Him and Her Music agrees with Sam. He says that one of the big reasons is cash flow. And he said, we're booking sometimes 2 years in advance and won't get to see that money for the booking for 2 years, obviously. We still have to run a business in the meantime, and receiving part of the fee up front definitely helps. So now we know what a booking fee is and what it's for. The next question, of course, is how much should a deposit be, and are there standards? This is like a how long is a piece of string question, and the answer can vary a lot. So it depends on your location, where you are, what country you're in, then what state you're in, and sometimes even what city your wedding is going to be in. The type of vendor you're booking, what category of vendor, what a wedding planner asks for, and what a caterer asks for, and what a venue asks for as a booking fee can be wildly different, and what is actually being reserved. So some suppliers ask for around 20 to 30% of their total fee upfront, whereas others, especially for smaller services, so services that don't cost as much or aren't as big a part of your wedding, or for very early bookings, if bookings are way in advance, some vendors may set a fixed dollar amount. So for me, for example, for my celebrant services, I try to divide up payments into 3 parts. There's a booking fee at the very beginning when a couple first books me in. There is a partial planning, legals commencement, starting to write the script fee that's 4 months out. And then the final fee, what I kind of call the performance fee, the fee for actually conducting the service, rocking up, doing all that sort of stuff, which is due 1 month out. And I divide it pretty evenly, pretty much a third at the booking, a third at 4 months out, and a third at 1 month out. But vendors, they vary. And this is a business practice as much as anything. Carolyn from Sweet Nothings Flowers shares, I do a 30% non-refundable booking fee. This allows time for initial admin, quoting, discussing ideas, replying to emails, holding the date, ordering supplies that might not normally be in my stock, and securing my suppliers who may be busy with other couples. Likewise, Dax from Tasty Bakes and Wedding Cakes tries to balance fairness with business realities. I charge a 25% booking fee. This secures your date and my sketching and ordering begins. If the order is cancelled, the deposit is non-refundable as I've already started my service. The balance is due 4 weeks before the event. If the event is postponed, then the fee can be carried over. But if it's cancelled, I keep the deposit as there's already been admin time, sketches and costs incurred. So the Unbridely Suppliers vendors have already sort of hinted at what this fee covers, what this booking fee covers. But let's get down to specifics here. Let's understand why businesses charge this. They're not a just-in-case charge. A booking fee allows vendors to invest real time and resources into your booking, into your wedding day from day one. And this might include phone calls, emails, administration, prepping timelines, scouting locations, ordering personalised or custom stock, reserving materials or inventory, or even paying staff retainers. And most importantly, it covers the cost of setting aside that time exclusively for you. If you had a sweary, chocolate-addicted, wine-sipping fairy godmother who could help you with your wedding planning, what would you wish for? Maybe no more spreadsheets or post-it notes or endless to-do lists. Well, I can help you with all of that. Wedsites is an Australian wedding website builder, guest management software, and wedding project planner all in one. Why is this such a game changer for you? Well, imagine everything to do with your wedding being in one place, updated in real time in the cloud, shareable to anyone else that's helping you, password protected for your guests with notifications to tell you what needs to be done next and by when. It's amazing, right? To get started on your very own free wedding website, just head to wedsites.com. Or if you want to use Wedsites to plan your entire wedding and not just as an RSVP wedding website, click on the link in the show notes and you'll receive 10% off their paid planning tools. The link is right there in the show notes. Hayley from Style to Hire says, we take a 20% non-refundable booking fee. It secures the booking and the start of the event planning for us. For florals, the balance is due 4 weeks prior to the event, and that is to be able to order and secure the specific flowers that are required. Makes sense. For items that are in stock, full payment is due 2 weeks prior to the event, and we have a clause in our terms and conditions that if items are purchase specific for that client, final decision on booking is made and the booking fee is non-refundable. So what Hayley means there is that if you've requested a furniture or a decor item that they've had to personalise for you in some way, so colour, decals, etc., or they've needed to purchase something specific that they didn't have in stock just to fulfill your order, then you've made a commitment from when the booking fee is paid. Okay, so now the big one. Are booking fees refundable? This is where couples can run into confusion, and it's why it's crucial to ask questions and read your contracts very carefully. In most cases, the deposit, booking fee, whatever you want to call it, is non-refundable. And it's not a trick. It simply recognises the lost opportunity. It's termed opportunity cost in economics. It means a vendor is unable to book another couple while you have booked them in. But if you weren't to book them in, they might have other opportunities. It's the cost of an opportunity lost, if you like. That said, every situation has its nuance. Some suppliers will offer partial refunds or allow you to transfer your booking if you need to postpone, especially if it's for emergencies. And if, for any reason, a vendor can't deliver what they've promised, we're bound in Australia by Australian Consumer Law, ACL, or in the United States, there are state-based regulations, and vendors are obligated to either provide partial refunds, full refunds, or suitable remedies. Like, they need to make it better in a monetary sense, usually. Sometimes, if it's a vendor like maybe cakes, maybe flowers, maybe a venue, photography is the one that springs to mind most in that sometimes wedding photographers can do other photography later. So, maybe if you get married and then you start a family and then you have a big photo session, then sometimes they can cover that for you. But nothing is guaranteed unless it's in a legally binding and signed contract. So always, always, always ask in advance. Don't give them any money at all unless you are crystal clear on what will happen if things don't work out. If things don't work out the way that you think they will, if you don't end up getting married for whatever reason, and we learnt that the hard way in COVID, of course, didn't we? We learnt that there are some things outside of our control that could delay or cancel a wedding. And likewise, vendors are humans. The great ones, the ones that I recommend and love and are my colleagues, they will do everything in their power to make what they've promised to you a reality. But sometimes, and it's not often, but sometimes things get in the way. Health can get in the way. There can be car accidents. There can be personal tragedies. And sometimes vendors can't fulfill what they've promised. You need to know. You need to be okay with whatever the plan is should things go wrong. It's not inviting misfortune. I don't want you to think it's bad luck. It's adulting. It's weighing up the risk versus the reward. And from my perspective, it's a part of married life too. You're now considering another person's needs and wants and their ability to deliver stuff to you, it's growing up, it's being responsible and being okay, no matter what the outcome is, knowing that you'll be able to deal with it. So from a vendor side of things, I know that a lot of wedding vendors are uncomfortable. First of all, talking about money, full stop. A lot of us are creatives. We like to produce art and experiences and vibes and all the things. But then it comes down to, actually asking for money for our stuff, actually building in business practices so we can continue to do it and maybe not eat baked beans during the off season. And yeah, it's a common perspective, let's put it that way, that vendors find it hard to ask for what they want and need because they're in service, and that's where their heart lies. But at the same time, if a vendor doesn't put their needs first, they won't be in business. You can book them a year or two out. They won't be around if they don't ask for what they need, if they don't get booking fees, if they don't charge what they're worth, and if they don't cover their costs. So here is where both worlds meet. Couples sometimes assume that booking fees are just a wedding tax. But in reality, it's about mutual trust. Great vendors want to deliver their absolute best. And to do that, they need both security and commitment, just like you do. Pete from Him and Her Music brought a very frank and real world perspective to this conversation when I asked everyone online in the Unbridely Suppliers group. And I'll quote him here. People can be flaky. I don't doubt that people would have no problem changing their supplier throughout their planning journey because trends change. Something else catches their eye, or they just had a change of plans with no thought of how much it costs you to make a commitment or decision and stick with it. What he's saying there is for a vendor to commit to a date, it costs us because it is a commitment. It is a commitment to doing what you say you're going to do, sometimes 2 years in advance, and sticking with that. Even if your sister decides to get married on the same date as one of your couple's weddings, you've got to continue through with it. Even if someone gets sick, a family member gets sick on one of your clients' wedding dates, you're meant to stick with it. You're meant to go through with it. Like, that's the idea of these contracts. And so then Pete said, in my opinion, it shows the client that you're legit, the vendor's legit. Receiving a booking fee is also a good motivator for us, the supplier, to stick with the booking. So when I think about this, I also think about, what happens when you get something for free? So especially in the online world at the moment, there's a lot of self-help sort of gurus and people who are trying to help you get healthy and, maybe start a new diet plan, regime, exercise routine, whatever it might be. And so they do, I'm sure you've seen them, free webinars, right? So they'll promise the world on socials and they'll say, sign up for my free webinar. And it's an opportunity to be able to sell you things. And that's completely fine. But here's where the psychology comes in. When someone gives you something for free, it's not always, and it's not everyone, and it's not in every circumstance, but frequently, you don't value it. You haven't had to exchange anything to get that free webinar, for example, might be chock full of value for you. They might talk about everything to get yourself healthy. It's been proven that there's a higher than usual percentage of people who just won't attend the webinar. Even though they said they wanted the thing that the person was selling or promising or the information they were going to share, you didn't pay for it. So there's less motivation for you to rock up. Similarly, if you're putting down a booking fee for a supplier, there's this intention that you put on the line. You go, I've put down good money for that. And so it helps you to stick with it as a client, but it helps the vendor to stick with you as well when other things pop up in their life that they might rather do. They might rather go to a fancy brunch on a Saturday morning with their friends who have just come in from out of town. But these are the sort of sacrifices that wedding vendors make. And that little booking fee, which is coming off the total amount of the cost of the service or product, makes all the difference. So some top tips for engaged couples. First of all, don't be afraid to ask. If you ask for clarity about your booking fee, what it covers, and exactly when and how they might be refundable, if at all, is really important. Get everything in writing. Even the very best of intentions mean next to nothing without a written agreement or contract. And try to understand both sides of the equation here. You're booking a specialist who's investing their time, talent, and resources long before the big day arrives, while simultaneously promising their time and talent and resources for a date often months or years into the future as well. You've got their time, you've got their attention, you've got their talent from when you book them until your wedding day, and sometimes even afterwards as well. If you feel uncertain or you need advice on what the industry standard is or fair, feel free to reach out to your local consumer protection agency. So for Australians, if you have a look on the ACCC website, which is the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, they have a lot of information there on their website. Or check with your local consumer protection agency for guidance, and I'll add some links in the show notes for you as well. Whew. It was a big one. I mean, not a long episode, but I think it's really important. So what do you think? Tell me your experience and thoughts about booking fees, deposits, or whatever the hell you want to call them, money paid upon booking a wedding vendor, product or service. I'd love to know what you have heard and what's happened to you or what's happened to others. You can DM me on Instagram at Unbridely or email me at hello@unbridely.com. And until next time, celebrate your people. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.